This week we asked our audience, what is your most dreaded interview question? And 47% of you said it was, what is your greatest weakness? So today I'm going to give you a simple 4-step system to answer this question. We're going to walk through an example together and some weaknesses that you could use, which would be really quite easy for you to sew into your answer, and stick around until the end when I'm going to give you 5 weaknesses that you absolutely should avoid. First of all, why are you being asked this question? What is the interviewer really looking for when they ask you this? Well, it's actually 3 things. Number 1 is humility. Someone who is humble enough to just say, well, yeah, of course I make mistakes. There are loads of mistakes that I've made, weaknesses that I have. The second thing is the ability to learn and to grow. Now, I've heard it said very often by many great leaders that one of the greatest things that you can be is just teachable. So somebody reflecting back in their answer that they're willing to learn and grow from a mistake, a weakness. And the third thing is self-awareness. You know, you might have that person who just basically thinks that they're the best thing since sliced bread and there's nothing wrong with them, whereas probably those around them would beg to disagree and think, well, you know, there's some things that you could work on, buddy. So it's having a good level of self-awareness and reflection to think, yeah, you know, there are things that I can work on. So what's the best way to answer this question? Well, all we need to think about is really, instead of saying, what's your biggest weakness? Just think, what's your biggest lesson? So we want to change the weakness into a lesson that we've learned from. I like simple analogies and simple ways to look at things. So we minimize the negative and we maximize the positive by identifying the weakness and reflecting on the lesson that we have learned from this. Let's have a look at 3 examples in this table. So in the table, you can see that we've got what's the weakness, what did it cause, how did you improve, and what did you learn from this? Let's take being disorganized as an example. Me being disorganized caused me to miss the deadline for my work project. So how did I improve this? Because I didn't want to do this again. I didn't want to repeat my mistake. So I got a diary and a calendar to schedule tasks. And what have I learned from it? I learned that I need to prioritize tasks and keep track of all my tasks. So you can see how we've really just changed this weakness into a lesson, something that we've reflected on and then what we've learned. The next question that probably comes to mind is, yeah, Mike, but what weakness do I choose? I don't want to choose a weakness that makes me look really stupid or that possibly blows my chances out the water of getting a job. Well, you'd be surprised. Apart from the 5 weaknesses that I'm going to talk about at the end of this video, most weaknesses are actually fine. Here's a couple of examples. Being too critical of yourself, attempting to please everyone, being unfamiliar with the latest software, being disorganized, having confidence issues. I think particularly if you're a graduate or you're a younger person who's watching this video, then you might have this false idea that you should present yourself as being perfect. Those who are a little bit seasoned or older, like myself, will reflect that, yeah, I know I've got loads of weaknesses, I've got loads of stuff that I can work on, and I'm perfectly happy to talk to you about that because it shows that I've got good self-awareness, I can be humble, and also I am coachable and I am teachable, right? So for all of these weaknesses, you might say, well, being disorganized, that could be really bad for the job. But remember, it's not a weakness, it's a lesson. So one of my greatest weaknesses has been that I am disorganized, because when I was doing this project, I missed the deadline, but I've learned from this. And what I've learned to do is A, B, C. Now, I'm not saying I get it right every time, but I'm a darn sight better than I used to be. So you can see how we're really changing this negative connotation into a positive one and saying, hey, yep, I've got loads of weaknesses, but I'm learning, I'm getting better. So let's break this down into our simple 4-step system, which I've called WCIL, or also known as WCIL. Okay, I don't think that's not, but it just sounds cool, right? So W, what's the weakness? C, what did it cause? Tell the story of how the weakness was revealed and the negative consequences that it had. I, what did you realize that you needed to improve? You're like, oh, that didn't go so well. You know, kind of sitting there journaling late at night in your little diary, and you're like, need to work on this, this could be better. And L, what lesson did you learn? Give a new story if possible where you can show that in action. So you're like, right, the next day I went back and now I've learned I'm going to do this differently because I don't want this to happen again. So here's an example. We're going to walk through this together. The weakness. I would say previously my biggest weakness was speaking to clients. What did this weakness cause? My previous jobs required me to give presentations in front of people to relay information in a clear and concise manner. But this always involved internal stakeholders and never people from outside the organisations. The first time I gave a presentation, I became really flustered and was so nervous that I ended up leaving lots of things out and felt so embarrassed afterwards. The improvement. I knew it was vital for me to improve this skill, so I specifically looked for a part-time job during university that would allow me to talk to customers directly. I started working as a fraud analyst in a telephony role in NatWest in July. This gave me plenty of opportunities to upskill and improve my communication skills. And finally, the lesson. I have been in this job for more than 3 months now and I'm enjoying the work immensely. I now talk to more than 30 customers a day during my shift and I am able to help them deal with fraudulent transactions on their credit cards in a short amount of time. So what started out as a weakness has become a lesson. So let's just walk through that again. So you would, number one, choose your weakness. Number two, tell the story where the weakness is revealed. Number three, outline how you have improved the process, the things that you have put into place. And number four, tell the story again, a different story, where those improvements have now meant you have minimized the weakness or even gotten rid of the weakness altogether. So finally, as promised, here's 5 weaknesses to avoid at all costs. Lateness, rudeness, not good at teamwork, struggle with colleagues, can't take criticisms. So over the years I've heard lots of different weaknesses, but these 5 are clear red flags, apart from stuff that's really obvious, like I get really angry or I like to day drink, or do you know what I mean? So these are the things that as soon as somebody says that, goes, well, you know, I'm not really great at getting on with other people, and I'm sitting there in an office full of paper and I'm thinking, well, I hope you enjoy working by yourself somewhere else. And sometimes I've heard people be really honest and said, well, yeah, but it's just about being honest. And I think, yes, it is. But there's a difference between honesty and full disclosure, right? So these are weaknesses to avoid. I think most people get that, but you'd be surprised how often I've heard some of these used. I've had to go, maybe not. So guys, I hope that you've enjoyed this video. Drop us a like, drop us a comment down below. Let us know what other questions you'd really like us to cover that you're worried about. And next up, why not check out this video for why this company, which was the second most dreaded interview question in our vote from this week. See you later.